On today's episode of Titus and Tate, the league is in good hands, Tate. We know that. We've known that for a while. But the hands that the league belong to might be a little older than the experts originally thought, because from my point of view, it seems like the league might belong to the hands of a 36-year-old Chris Paul.
Oh, wow. So when you said 36-year-old, I thought it had to be LeBron James, because that is the only 36-year-old who can play at this level at that age. But like you said, Chris Paul is proving that's not the case. Maybe there's two, and he happens to be the president of the Players Association.
It was quite an amazing series from Chris Paul. He shot 436. This is true. I saw this up. I saw the stat tweeted out. 436 high pick and roll. Go to your right, hit the elbow jumper because
fade out to the right and
unstoppable. Unstoppable, but also like still maybe try to stop it, Denver. Like still maybe like try something.
Yes, we're to the point where mid-range shots, we're just like, we'll give it to you. And Chris Paul is literally automatic. So if it's automatic and it goes in every single time, it doesn't matter if three is more than two. So I think that's what we learned in this series. Sometimes it's good to have a mid-range game.
What if I told you two?
Who would have thought?
What if I told you two is actually worth more than three? I'll explain later. Also, the Brooklyn Nets are not taking it to the Nets level, Tate, as their shooting shirts imply. They are in trouble. Are we throwing that word out? Is the series over?
That's what we learned after game 2. The series was over. Very similar to the Clippers in the first round. 2 games in, we knew it was over. The Bucks were dead to rights. They go home. They win 2 games. Kyrie Irving goes down with an injury, and America says the Nets are dead. The series is over. So through 4 games, the series has been over in 2 different ways, which I think usually means, Titus, we have a 7-game series, right?
That's how that works. Yeah, it's going to be a good series. So we'll talk about the Nets a little bit. Certainly got to talk about Chris Paul and Tate. It's we're recording this on Monday, which can only mean one thing. I got some fraud power rankings for people.
Yes.
There are a lot of frauds in the National Basketball Association, and they all deserve to be called out because, as we know, NBA media want to get too buddy with these guys. No one has the balls to just say you're a fraud. I'm the only one. No one else does.
I really hope that you have Luka Doncic on there, and it's from Haralabob. Did you see this story?
Please don't step on my power rankings, Tate.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. We'll wait.
I promise we will get to it. But first,
Woody Durham.
I will defer to the North Carolina expert here because Tate seems to, anytime a guy has any tie to North Carolina, the state, the university, the idea, I think you've gotten really broad with your North Carolina umbrella. It could be like a guy that has nothing to do with North Carolina, but to you say, feels like a North Carolina guy, so I'm going to claim that guy as well.
Well, it's like kind of. I'll give an example. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. His mom's from Raleigh, North Carolina, so he's one degree away from North Carolina.
You always find a way, Tate. You don't have to go to those links with Chris Paul. He is a North Carolina guy. He went to Winston-Salem, or went to Wake Forest in Winston-Salem. I'm sorry,
from Winston-Salem. Yeah.
So, I will let you have the floor first. My big overarching question is, how did we get here with Chris Paul, where he is so universally beloved, where it feels like every neutral basketball fan is cheering for him to finally get his ring? Not even necessarily his ring. I mean, we certainly want him to get the ring, but the man has never even played in the NBA Finals. It feels like the entire basketball community is rallying behind him, when not that long ago, this man was a dirty player who hit people in the balls. How did we get here? How did it happen? Where was the moment in time that all this switched?
I do feel like Chris Paul is this generation's Isaiah Thomas, right? Where in the sense of he is so likable. He kind of checks all the boxes. He is, the all-American kid, right? And he, his first story that we all got to the world was his grandpa is fatally shot. He, scores his grandpa's age. He airballs a free throw to make sure he scores 63 points or 61 points, I think it was. Right? That was in high school. So his introduction to the world, right, is this, tragic but also incredible story of basketball being his place of peace, so to speak. And then he goes to Wake Forest. He plays for Skip Prosser. They're one of the best teams in the country. I think he probably that's the first time, like you said, he hits Julius Hodge in the nuts.
What's the story behind that? Because I
Well, did you ever watch Julius Hodge play? He deserves to get hit in the nuts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Julius Hodge was literally like he was an instigator on the court. He was trying to bait you into these things. And Chris Paul saw a moment. He had a moment of weakness.
We should go relitigate dirty plays and decide whether they were justified or not.
Well deserved. Yeah.
Just watch. Like, yeah, Chris Paul punched him the balls. He deserved it. Grayson Allen, that trip. No, that was a dirty play. The other trip though, that one was actually
Santa Ana. The Santa Ana trip, like Santa Ana was doing some dirty things to Grayson Allen. So you're like, you kind of give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
You're like, okay.
Yeah. Brad Davison stepping under a guy's foot. Don't really love it, but also rivalry game, so I allow it.
Yeah. And also, if you're a Giannis fan, you're like, very Brad Davison, very Wisconsin move. Very Wisconsin move. So Chris Paul's whole story, I should say, like that's the duality, the dichotomy. He goes to the NBA, goes to New Orleans. He's in this kind of situation where everyone thinks. I think people forget this. Darren Williams was the better point guard, right? Titus, you watch basketball,
I remember,
15 years ago, and like some people that talk about it now.
Did they play? They played each other in 2005. It would have been 2005. That was Illinois' introduction to America, that we are the best team. Like we are. Wake Forest is ranked number 1 in the country. They play, if memory serves, they play in Champaign, and Illinois runs them off the floor. And I don't remember the Darren Williams versus Chris Paul matchup per se, but Illinois wiped the floor with Wake Forest, and that was like their introduction to America. Like, we're not to be messed with. And then they go on their run, as we all remember, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also Chris Paul, when he gets into the NBA, there's Raymond Felton, there's Darren Williams, there's all these other point guards. And he's always, even though he was, I think, the entire time the best point guard, there were all these conversations that were happening. Was he better than Darren Williams? And Darren Williams is playing for, Coach Sloan out in Utah, and they're having, these head-to-head matchups, and Darren Williams would always somehow play better than Chris Paul, and he had a little bit of a size advantage. So by 2008, 2009, America says Chris Paul is second to Darren Williams. Darren Williams then goes to Brooklyn. They tried to build a super team there. Regardless, Chris Paul endures during this entire period, right? Then he goes to the Clippers. He builds Lob City. He makes Blake Griffin the number 1 pick. He's feeding him lobs, making him look great. DeAndre Jordan, same thing. He's making him have some of these most impactful moments. The Brandon Knight dunk from DeAndre Jordan, that lob, that moment, that comes to mind. So Chris Paul is doing all this, but at the same time, the show is the dunk, right? Chris Paul is an accessory to the show, but we're loving him, but he gets blamed for some of the internal politics in the locker room. But, if you're watching Chris Paul and you're a fan of basketball, you're saying, I think Chris Paul's right here, and even though it didn't work out, you're saying Chris Paul's right. And then I think he got the people back, Titus, because a younger North Carolina guard comes up and supplants him right in his face. And we all remember the move when Curry does the shimmy and Chris Paul kind of falls down, and and then Curry hits the shot. The Warriors start out the season in 2015, 2016 when they win 73 wins. They win 13 in a row. They win against the Clippers. Steph Curry goes off in front of Chris Paul. And again, that's when the tide was. I feel bad for Chris Paul. I am concerned about Chris Paul. I worry for Chris Paul. He's also getting a lot of power on the back end with the Players Association. Now he's the president of the Players Association. Now he's getting, in with the league, understanding the business side of things. He's the entire time the people have been on the Chris Paul journey. We've waited for him to be a champion. We've waited for him to break through. And when the Lakers trade got broken up in 2011, that was the moment
to think back on. Hysterical to think back that the NBA, given the current landscape of what the NBA has become, that the NBA would say that. I mean, I understand David Stern was the commissioner at the time, and David Stern and Adam Silver have two different philosophies on how to run a league. But it's just so funny that right now is what the league is. And it was only 10 years ago. That was 2011.
Yeah.
I would have guessed that was like 2008, because it feels like so far ago, like a completely different era of basketball, which I guess 10 years might count. But yeah, insane to think back on.
Insane to think about that. And it was broken up, and then he ends up going to the Clippers. The rest is history. But I think that moment in time we all remember. And I think that's when like the sympathy for Chris Paul really started, right? Because he was going to go play with Kobe. He was going to play with Dwight. Yeah. Dwight and Chris Paul would have been Lob City. It wouldn't have been Dwight and DeAndre Jordan. So like we all understood what that looked like, or what it could have looked like. So we felt bad for him. And now that he goes when he got sent to Oklahoma City, I think that was the best thing that ever happened to him, because that was we're sitting you out to the pasture, so to speak. You know what I mean? The NBA says, yeah, like, yeah, to Oklahoma, right? Like, just get out of here. Like, thank you for your service. You are not going to be a part of our future plans. And then we have the bubble experience. He makes that pretty much possible. And then we also have this shortened season, off season that leads to this season, that leads to his opportunity to finally win a championship. And he negotiated and brokered all these deals to make these things possible. So not only is like his team making this happen, he's also like a part of making basketball possible in this shortened season anyway. So he just feels due. So I think that every single person now that has felt bad, like at some point, there was some point in your Chris Paul timeline that we've been following him that you felt like he was getting the short end of the stick, so to speak. Yeah. So, and I think now that he finally isn't and things are falling in his way, whether it be getting injured in the playoffs, and there's so many examples, So like, I think everyone, like the good faith of Chris Paul throughout this whole thing, and the fact that he's been willing to be LeBron's, champion, like champions LeBron, you know what I mean? And that should be in the old school NBA. Like, you're not supposed to be friends, not supposed to be on the banana boat. So like, he's always been a good sport, and now he's finally getting his due, finally getting his stage, finally getting his moment. And I think that's why all the journalists and all the people that love storytelling and narratives and all that sort of stuff are like, I got to give him his due. And then you've got your Ryan Russillos of the world who have just always loved Chris Paul. I've always called him the point guard. You know what I'm saying? That are just gung-ho over, and they're like, finally, I feel validated because this guy plays the position like I understand it, or like it was taught to me when I first started watching basketball.
I don't remember Chris Paul having a ton of haters per se. I don't remember like a contingent of people that like were laughing at his demise all the time.
Never. I don't think ever.
Never. But I do think, as you hit a lot of the notes of a point I would make, is that as guys go through their career and you get to the twilight of the career, if you've not won a ring, it's very easy to even if you didn't love the guy, which again, I don't think anybody was like, I'm explicitly cheering. Like, I don't care who wins in the playoffs as long as Chris Paul doesn't win. I don't know if anyone's ever been like that with the guy.
I don't think anyone's ever said that.
But there have been people that like don't love him. There have been people that are, I don't think you can win with that guy. Like, he just kind of is out there. If you don't really pay attention, you're like, Chris Paul, he just kind of dribbles around out there, sets up to you. As you said, Lob City. It's like, how hard is that? I mean, when you got the athletes, just throw it up to them. Like, whatever criticism you have. When you get to the end of your career, if you've never won a title before, I think unless that the player in question has just done heinous things off the court or is just an all around bad guy, I think some small part of you as a sports fan is like, I want that. No matter how I felt about him in the past, now that I see the clock ticking, I'm now cheering for him.
Yeah.
And I really feel like James Harden will get that treatment if the Nets are going to win a title, but. He'll win a title with the Nets, but like, fast forward James Harden career, as much as people shit on that guy and don't love watching him play and all that, I really do feel like a 35-year-old James Harden has not won a title yet. People would rally behind that, right? And they would be like, come on, let's do it for James. He deserves one at least, whatever.
It kind of happened with Barkley, when he went to the Rockets. People were like, I hope that it works out with the Rockets. I hope that Chuck can finally win one because Jordan stopped him. I mean, Karl Malone, when he went to the Lakers, it was sort of the same kind of thing. I mean, even Kyle Lowry. I mean, Kyle Lowry was a joke amongst the Eastern Conference basketball fans when they were like, LeBronto, he owns the Raptors. Yeah. And then finally Kyle Lowry wins a championship. And now people were saying the Lakers should trade for him this offseason because they need a point guard. You know what I mean? Then it flipped so quickly once he became a champion. We're all like, of course Kyle Lowry's a champion, yada, yada, yada. Chris Paul needs that same moment.
You pay more attention to this stuff than I do, so I need your help with this. When he was traded to the Suns, this was not thought of as a potentially title.
Not a title.
He was I remember it as Chris Paul can go to Phoenix and he can help. It feels like once Chris Paul, basically, as you said, he got put out the pasture at Oklahoma City. And the moment he arrives in Oklahoma City, it is his role in the NBA from now until he leaves basketball is to just mentor. And that's it, and teach.
Yeah,
and that's all he's going to do. And just and be a locker room guy and teach guys how to read ball screen coverage, and that's about it. And that's all he's
they were treating Chris Paul like he was Jarrett Jack. That's pretty much that was their outlook.
That's my memory of him being traded to Phoenix. Was like this is he'll help Phoenix for sure. Like he's a good player, but like, I mean, come on, like his real value will be grooming Devin Boyd. Phoenix is a young team, and maybe Chris Paul's veteran leadership can help the young guys understand, the business side. People forget, Tate, that this is a business. This isn't like that's my memory of the discussions around Chris Paul going to the Suns, and the fact that the guy, if the NBA playoffs operated like the NCAA tournament where we now do a regional MVP. I feel like Chris Paul, now that the Suns have made the Final Four, I feel like Chris Paul might be the MVP over Devin Booker. I don't know. It's a good argument to have, I suppose, but also I don't feel like Suns fans even really want to argue. They're just like, who cares? We're winning. That's a lot of fun. But the way Chris Paul played against Denver, it was like Devin Booker was awesome. He was scoring. I looked up his stats today, and I couldn't believe how many points he was scoring in the series because he was just kind of out there. And I don't mean that as a slight to Devin Booker at all. It was just that when I was watching these games, the story was Chris Paul every single game. It felt like just dicing up Denver, and Mike Malone just sitting on the sidelines, just with his arms crossed. Like, I don't know what. Give the ball to Nikola. We're like, yeah, that's what we do on offense, coach. What are we doing on defense though? And he's like, give it to the Joker. Give it to the joke man. And we're like, Mike, come on. What are we doing?
It also like showed a basketball, it showed what matchups really mean, right? Because you have Campazzo and Austin Rivers going against Devin Booker and Chris Paul. And so that right there pretty much says what all you need to say. But you have to give credit to Phoenix because they were exploiting those matchups to the maximum. Chris Paul specifically, and I think, you asked about the MVP of the regional. I think it has to be Chris Paul. I mean, the guy had 41 assists and 3 turnovers for the series.
It's insane.
I mean, that's like, you talk about assist turnover ratio. When we talk about point guards, I mean, I know the kids, everyone wants to call him the point guard. I mean, that is who Chris Paul is. I mean, he is clinically a point guard and a pure point guard, as they would say, right? I mean, he's not a combo guard. He is, when you think of a point guard.
Love him. That's why you bring up Russillo loving him. I mean, like if you are a fan of old school basketball, and I think most of us that have graduated college kind of are. I think that's just how the world works. It's like the older you get, your appreciation for basketball doesn't. The older I'm getting, the more I think this. I don't think you go back to the era you grew up in. I think you go even further back. I think there's like some sort of weird force at play. Like the older I get, the more I start thinking, like, I think I'm at like 1984 as like the pinnacle of basketball, and give me 10 more years and I'll think it was 1976. 15 more years and I'll be like, no. In 1969, that is when basketball was at its purest form. So all the old heads love a guy like Chris Paul because his brand of basketball is a lost art. It is, and it shouldn't be, because like those of us that have been watching basketball for decades and decades and have seen every iteration, we remember a time when the 3-point line was not necessarily a gimmick, but I mean, a lot of people listening do remember when it was a gimmick, but you and I at least remember like it was a specialty, it was a novelty. It was like you had the one guy on the team that could shoot threes.
It was a specialist.
That was your role. You were a specialist. And all the
James Jones, the GM of the Phoenix Suns. That is what we're talking about.
All the evolutions of basketball throughout time. The point guard, the style of play of which Chris Paul operates at the point guard position. It does feel like it's something that should be timeless, but it's not. A guy who sets up, who has full understanding of where all 10 guys are on the floor at all times and sets up his teammates and knows the exact right recipe for when he needs to hunt his own and also get other guys involved and all of that kind of stuff. It's such a breath of fresh air, especially if you're, if you turn your boomer up to 11 and you're the type that like pulls out your hair watching the James Harden and Luka Doncic of the world and Trae Youngs that just have the ball in their hands for 20 seconds out of every possession. A guy like Chris Paul he's manna from heaven watching him play.
Yeah, and it's like watching art because it is a balancing act, to, like you said, to pick and choose your spots and to have the composure and the comfort and the ability to get guys involved and to get a young guy like DeAndre Ayton comfortable going up against the MVP where he has the confidence because he's getting easy buckets and like all the little things that Chris Paul does to get this young team in good spots. And then he also has, veteran guys like a Jay Crowder, who's a nice, if we were in a position where Mikal Bridges is kind of, this moment's pretty big for me, kind of like what happened to Harrison Barnes in 2015 with the Warriors. If Bridges has one of those moments, we have Jay Crowder. And that's why you asked about the trade as the original question. Like when Chris Paul got traded, I think that the most optimistic fan of the Suns would say, we can compete in the West, like we could maybe make it to the finals, but I don't think they saw that and said, we're going to win a championship. I mean, maybe they did after the 8-0 bubble run and they're on a super high, but at best in reality, you're thinking we can play the Lakers and, we'll give the Lakers our best shot and we'll see what happens kind of thing. And the best part about this journey is that, Jay Crowder goes. I mean, there were other guys that believed in what they saw from the bubble. I mean, from the
Yeah.
Suns. And I think Devin Booker should take a lot of like he should be honored that that not only did Chris Paul believe, because Chris Paul obviously orchestrated and agreed to go to Phoenix in the first place, and he wouldn't have agreed to that if he didn't think it was a potential place for him to compete. He obviously loved Coach Monty Williams; they have a tight bond. But Jay Crowder coming too, that really said, okay, Phoenix, like they really think they have something here. They think they can really compete here in the West. And then if you're Phoenix, you just beat the champs. So like you talk
Mhm.
about the belief that you are the team of destiny. It's not like they
Dominated
have,
the champs.
yeah.
Dominated.
And there's
Yeah.
no team that you're really that you're looking at that you're like, that's the boogeyman over there. The Nets probably were that team, and if they're healthy, they probably are that team. But with them being a little banged up too, your
Mhm.
confidence only shoots up. And I think that's why when they swept Jokic and Jokic gets thrown out of this game, I think that's why they celebrated so much, because that playing the defending champs is one thing. Then playing the MVP of the league is a whole nother thing, because you don't know what that's going to look like, especially with a young big like DeAndre Ayton. To get a sweep, which is, I think if you and I have been told that before this series, I would have said, I mean, maybe Jokic got hurt,
Yeah.
like honestly, like
I was
I
surprised by the sweep. I mean, I guess it shouldn't have been that surprising because when I heard you say it, I watched 4 games of it, so my eyeballs saw it. But just like hearing the words, Compazzo and Austin Rivers versus Chris Paul and Devin Booker,
I
it's like,
know.
yeah, no shit, it was a sweep. But
Yeah, no, and that's why I think that's why Booker and Paul, I think they have such great confidence, because they are the best backcourt that they'll face moving forward. You know what I mean? Think about the Clippers. Like the Clippers they have no backcourt. Like Reggie Jackson's going to match up with Chris Paul. Like good
dude,
luck.
not only backcourt, but like guys who can cover these ball screens
Yeah.
even if Reggie Jackson gets hit on a ball screen, who's Marcus Morris or Zubats have to now no
No,
no.
that's
I
what I
mean
mean.
the Jazz could if
The
it is the
Jazz are a good
Jazz,
matchup. Yep.
they're good. I don't know how when Mike's coming back. It is not
He's out for game 4.
I'm not
Yeah.
breaking news here, but at the same time, maybe the discussions around the Mike Conley camp, we'll put it that way, not exactly optimistic right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the hope is that he might just be out this entire Clippers series and get him back for the Suns. But Conley and Gobert, if that's it's never like a direct match. The NBA now is not like your fifth grade
No,
rec
but Conley and
basketball.
Gobert versus Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton is a good matchup. You know what I
Yeah, but
mean?
I'm saying it's not. The NBA never is like your fifth grade rec game where
Yeah.
you stand
Yeah.
across the guy. It's like you guard him every single
Yeah.
second of every.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all
But
matchups. Yeah.
in terms of Mike, Mike and Gobert could match up pretty well. But like you said, if it is the Clippers, who's stopping Chris Paul in the Clippers?
Mm-hmm.
If it's the finals become interesting. I don't know. The finals become interesting because I think it is going to be the Bucks or the Nets, whoever wins that series, and the Nets haven't guarded anybody all season, so I don't think that
Mm-hmm.
matters much. The Bucks, maybe that's where the wheels fall off for
Yeah, I mean, Drew Holiday would
Drew
be a good
Holiday.
matchup
Yeah,
for Chris
yeah,
Paul in the finals. I
Giannis
mean,
and PJ
it,
Tucker and
but the Sixers don't have a point guard to match up with Chris Paul. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like Doc Rivers is the best point guard on the Sixers, and he's coaching. So you know what I mean? Like that doesn't fare well. So all that to say is like I can't believe we're in a position, like you said, as we're getting close to the Final Four. We're setting up the conference finals. That the Suns are the team to me that seem like the team of destiny, and that scares me because I have witnessed Chris Paul so many times, get so close to the mountaintop, and then
What is the
something happened.
mountaintop though? I guess that's the other part is that the rings culture we live in that
Mm,
Chris Paul must win a ring, and I guess that is like what we've seen from Phoenix. I think they've been they've looked like the best team in the NBA in the playoffs so far, right?
yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
a fair assessment. So certainly that should be their goal, and I think they that is their goal, obviously. Um,
I mean, they've won 6
but
straight since Andre Drummond did the LeBron back, and he like backed
yeah,
them up and did like the Suns have been 6-0 since that moment and have just dominated.
but if the Suns lose to the Nets in 6 games and Steve Nash celebrates a win over the Suns, and
Oh,
it's every Phoenix fan's biggest nightmare. I mean, I guess that is a failure for people evaluation of Chris Paul. Like that's so stupid.
yeah.
That's so
I
stupid that the Rockets were, you know, what was it? A half away from beating the Durant Warriors in
Yeah. They
2018.
missed 28 threes in that game. Yeah.
And everyone talks about the Harden Chris Paul experiment was a failure, and that and it's like Chris Paul wasn't even playing in that game, and then I don't know, that's pretty annoying. But I'm trying to get ahead of it because you said if you're scared of Chris Paul quote unquote failing so often, but
Not even failing. I'm not saying fail. I'm just scared of getting my hopes up because I want
yeah,
him to do it so badly. You know what I mean? I think that's where I'm a fan of Chris Paul, so I want Chris Paul to do it. And in 2015, the year that the Warriors won their first championship, I thought that was the most open the NBA had been in quite some time. LeBron left the Heat. The big
yeah,
three was dead. He goes to Cleveland. Cleveland's not quite ready yet, but they have Kevin Love, they have Kyrie, they have LeBron, so they have a puncher's chance, obviously, with that team. And then you looked at the Western Conference, and it was like the Clippers were the team. And not only
yeah.
were the Clippers definitely the team, they beat the defending champs in the first round, which is what Chris Paul has done this year. So in 2015,
Mm,
they beat Tim Duncan. Chris Paul hit a game-winning shot in Game 7. In LA, they had earned home court. So they beat the defending champs. And that moment in time, I'm thinking to myself, well, the Clippers are going to win the championship this year. Obviously, the Warriors are the team, and the rest is history, so to speak. But that's what I mean. Where I am happy that they swept, but I am also, my reservations are still in place, right? Because
yeah,
I know that the Jazz could be a tough matchup for them, like we were just talking about. You see that obviously the Nets, if they're fully healthy, they are definitely going to be the favorites. You understand that Joel Embiid will be a tough matchup for DeAndre Ayton. So it's like, it's not a foregone conclusion, but as it sits right here, I think all signs are pointing to the Suns winning the championship. So I'm trying to just put the reservations and trying to like get the jinx out there to make sure that we don't get a jinx. I'm trying to
yeah.
get ahead
All
of
right,
it.
well, I'll get ahead of it for you. I don't think the Suns are winning the title. I think
There you
it's.
go.
I said going into the Bucks Nets series, I felt
Mm.
like that was whoever emerges from that will be your NBA champion. I still believe it because
Who's
I
guarding Giannis?
yeah, I still believe. I think the wheels fall off for the Suns in the finals if they match up with one of those two, but maybe not. I don't know.
Mm.
That's why we love watching basketball.
But also the good thing, and that's why the banana boat is so important, is because LeBron James made it so that if you make it to the finals,
Yes,
you have
yes,
you have
you
won a
have won.
championship,
You have won.
especially in the West.
You keep saying I'm not a champion. I won the Western Conference
Ex-
championship. So what are you
exactly.
talking
Yeah.
about?
Look at my ring. I think they get rings for the Western Conference championship, something like that. They get
That's a
something,
that's a
maybe a
Fab
ribbon.
Five. That's a Fab Five move too. The Fab Five never won a championship unless you count a regional championship and AKA a Final Four berth. So
Yeah.
that's an old school move.
And to be
The Fab Five invented celebrating. It was not LeBron like you think. It was the Fab Five. They invented black socks, the name Jalen, and
baggy shorts.
and calling Final Four championships. That was the baggy shorts, you name it. My God, bald heads ish.
Rivalries on the court.
Yes.
Oh man.
What was I gonna say? Oh, you mentioned Jay Crowder earlier. I just wanted to acknowledge Jay Crowder's existence because this man to me, not a great comparison. People are gonna hear me say the name I'm about to say, and you're gonna recoil and be like, I'm sorry, what? How dare you? But let me finish. He reminds me of like Robert Ory in the sense
Yeah,
that
yeah,
he's
yeah.
on a million different teams and he has not hit the big shots that Robert Ory has hit. He has not won a championship at all, much less what did Ory win? 5, 6, 7?
I think he won 5, maybe 6. He may have won 6. I think he may have
7?
won. I think he
Is
may
that
have
who is that who LeBron was talking about when he was introduced as to Miami? He was like not 5. He was asked how many championships did Robert Ory win?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We got
Not
dubbed
6,
over after
not
the fact.
7, not 8.
I'm about to see how many he has.
Look it up. I'm gonna guess. Lock me in on 7. I think he has one more than Jordan.
Yeah,
I'm
he
gonna
has
say
7. He has 7.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So Jay Crowder obviously doesn't have a chance. So I'm not. It's not a perfect comparison, but just the idea of at any given time during the offseason, if you ask me what team Jay Crowder's on, I'd be like, damn, I don't know. I don't remember. Did he get traded? Was he a free agent? Whatever. I have no idea. All I know for sure, Tate, is that he's going to show up in the playoffs and be a part of a very good playoff team. That's what he does
Yes.
every single year. He
Mhm.
never has won the title, but he was on Miami last year. It goes to the
Yeah.
finals. He was on the Jazz, right? I'm trying to think of all the other teams.
I mean, the
Celtics
Celtics
forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then what was it? He was drafted by the Mavs, right? And didn't he make the playoffs one year for the Mavs? And they
Yeah.
were halfway decent team. that lost in the first round because that's what the
And
Mavs
then he was
do.
with the Grizzlies for a little bit, like right when Ja
Yeah,
Morant got there. So like Ja Morant and all the young Grizzlies like love Jay Crowder. I saw them like during the Lakers series. They're like, that's my boy, Jay
yeah,
Crowder. It's like he does have a lot of fan bases because he's like even the Heat fans like pulling for Jay Crowder because they're like he's a winner. He
Jay
gets the
Crowder.
Heat culture.
And he's also he's been on so many teams that like I can now picture him in every single jersey.
Yeah, that's
And
why
you're
it's
like,
hard. Like even
you
when you said the
remember?
Mavs, I'm like, yeah, it looks right in my head.
Do you
Yes.
remember when he was on the Rockets? And I would say, yeah, I do. Like he had a couple good years for them, right? Like that was the
It's like you're getting him and Trevor
Trevor
Ariza mixed
Ariza
up. Yeah.
mixed up. And then Robert Covington is kind of the same way. Like they're
Yeah,
all in the
Rocco.
same.
Yeah. Yeah. Crowder could have been on the Sixers too. You know what I mean? It just feels like, or
It
he
all
should be
feels
on the
right.
Sixers. Yeah.
It all feels right. So you say that you say Phoenix, you think they're the team to beat. And
I think they are the team of destiny right now. I think it would be really hard. It'd be hard press. And you know, we did that podcast where we were talking about the what's the best for the NBA and like who is going to
if you could fudge whatever, make it.
yeah, I mean the Players Association president Chris Paul, who you work the closest with, and a young star like Devin Booker, who is dating one of the biggest reality stars or whatever they are now, the Kardashians, Kendall Jenner. You know, like that whole drama. I know a lot of people say the NBA is like the Kardashians, but if you're the NBA and you can actually use the cachet of the Kardashians and have, I mean, I know I said this one time, Sun Sixers finals, and then you have Ben Simmons, who used to date Kendall Jenner, playing against her new boyfriend Devin Booker, and then Kendall Jenner sitting
Whoa.
courtside.
That's
You know,
true. They
yeah,
really
yeah,
wow.
that could be the finals. It could be Ben Simmons and Doc Rivers, who obviously Doc Rivers and Chris Paul have their own little rivalry going on. And then Ben Simmons and Devin Booker have their own rivalry going on. And then Kendall Jenner's just sitting there courtside. And like, if you're the NBA and you're Adam Silver and you're the
That's
NBA entertainment president, that is what you want. You want
That's what the NBA. That would be the lowest rated finals ever, but the most tweeted about.
Yes, exactly. No one's watching it, but everyone's like, "Oh my God, Kendall's there! Oh my God, Ben Simmons!"
Did you see what Ben put on his Instagram page? Oh my God! Oh my God!
Yes,
When the
yes.
series finally gets underway, it is going to be war, and you're like, they're on game 5 already. You're like, yeah, but you know, like when it really gets,
yeah. I mean, that to me is why I'm leaning Suns, because I think if it's Suns Sixers, then I would take the Suns over the Sixers, right? But if it was Suns Bucks, I would take the Bucks.
If it's Suns, Bucks, or Nets,
I would take either one of the.
I like Bucks or Nets, assuming obviously that
everyone's healthy.
Everyone's healthy, and they probably would be if you get to that point
in the finals.
Yeah, that's a good. What is the? I feel like the way everyone's upset with if the Clippers make it out of the West now, that's bad news bears for like the general NBA fan. I think the general NBA fan is losing their mind. If the Clippers, like a team that was dead, they were dead to rights against the Mavs. They're down 2-0. They lost the first 2 games of the playoffs at home. To then come back, beat Utah, which I don't think people have a lot of love for Utah per se.
No,
I don't think
they
that's
don't.
I don't think people around the
especially after the Grizzlies first round and some of the stuff that you know what I mean, like they haven't endeared themselves to the public.
People forget coronavirus did not exist in this country until Rudy Gobert touched microphones. So
yes, that's
I think
true.
People harbor a lot of ill will for him for that.
D Wade's been a nice boost. Like having Dwayne Wade there has been nice, and Gab Union, but in total, I feel like America's kind of out.
I weirdly don't think America loves Utah, which I feel like Utah could check a lot of the boxes otherwise in terms of like a franchise that was knocking on the door, had Michael Jordan rip their hearts out.
Yep.
Donovan Mitchell seems likable enough. Mike Conley is obviously extremely likable. In my unbiased opinion.
Well, Mike Conley is just like Chris Paul. He's Ohio or Indiana's Chris Paul. He's from Ohio, right?
He's
not Indiana. Or he's from Indiana. So he's Indiana's Chris Paul. So there you go. Then that makes sense.
But I think so. If Utah beats the Suns, I think you're right though. People want the Suns. Because I've talked myself into like if Utah makes the finals, I think that's good for the league or good for. I think people would be excited about that.
Donovan Mitchell is the same as Devin Booker. Like I think if you're the NBA right now, you're angling towards Utah versus Phoenix, because then you say the regular season
anyone
matters,
but
right?
The Clippers. Anyone but the Clippers.
Yeah. And then you can claim like these teams are the best team in the regular season, and now they're here, they're playing each other. Like all the talk about them, the West being wide open is null and void at that point. And then you get Donovan Mitchell versus Devin Booker, which I think is a great for the scoring. New NBA that people want to see. So That will be fun. And you talked about the guys that ripped out, Jordan's heart. I mean, Utah with Darren Williams, go full circle to Darren Williams for Chris Paul to beat Utah, Darren Williams' old franchise, in the conference finals. That would just be more of the CP3 redemption tour where he's just getting over all the hump.
John Stockton pops back in to remind everybody, I am better than Donovan Mitchell. He is not the best Jazz player ever. And also, I'm better than Chris Paul, just FYI. And everyone's like, no, you're not, John. And he's like, watch this. And he laces him up for Utah.
It is the best point guard on the floor. It's like, how's this work?
Like Chris Paul is of the John Stockton ilk. And
yeah, for sure.
John Stockton really is one of the more disrespected NBA players of all time.
I mean, remember the Dream Team doc when they had fans asking him to take pictures of the other players, and he's like, I am also on the team, but I will take these. And he was also hurt during the Dream Team, so that's why a lot of people were like he couldn't even play on the Dream Team. It's like Stockton was hurt, he would have played a lot more.
He's worse than disrespected. There's an apathy towards John Stockton. It's not like his name gets brought up and people are like, no, that guy wasn't even that good. His name, it feels like his name doesn't even get brought up at all.
Yeah.
Discussions of whatever your discussions are.
It does seem like people treat him like he's Scott Skiles, and it's like, no, he's John Stockton, and there's a difference between those two. And it does seem like people are like, yeah, whatever, same type of guy. And it's like, no, Stockton was kind of like a wizard. I mean, like you said, Chris Paul and John Stockton are more similar than they are different when you look at their games.
John Stockton could never play in today's NBA. It's too athletic. It's too this or that. And it's like he played Michael Jordan's NBA.
And Derek Coleman's NBA, you know what I mean? And Larry Johnson's NBA. That's the funniest part. It's like there's this reverence and nostalgia for these guys. I was watching Pardon the Interruption the other day, and they were talking about Vinnie Johnson in the microwave, and they're just like, we'll never see someone like Vinnie Johnson coming off the bench and doing what he did scoring the basketball. And I'm like, I'm sitting there I agree. Vinnie Johnson's incredible. The microwave, yada, yada, yada. But then you have the same people and Jordan's playing, not PTI, obviously, but the people that would call them out, and Jordan's playing plumbers back then. It's no, Vinnie Johnson was coming off the bench. Yeah. And his name was the microwave.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You can't have it both ways.
John Stockton played in a league with Michael Jordan and Dominic Wilkins. And I'm led to believe that he wouldn't be able to.
He's playing against plumbers.
With the athleticism of today. Boy, oof. You're right though. A Jazz Suns finals, but anybody but the Clippers. I'm just trying to figure out if you are conditioning yourself for the worst possible scenario for the Suns, what is it? And it feels like it's losing to the Nets in the finals. It feels like
that's the worst case. That's bad for everybody. That's bad for the NBA. You know what I'm saying? I don't even think the NBA goes home happy about the Nets beating the Suns.
Yeah.
I think if the Nets get to the finals, you hope the Nets are playing the Clippers.
Holy shit!
Because the only team that they could have some sort of likability towards is probably the Clippers.
I just looked it up. The Suns won 51 games and the Nets won 48. So the Suns would host. Is that right? Game 7 of the finals.
They would have home court.
I'm putting it at Suns fans are gonna be mad at me. Shout out Wild Bags, our favorite Suns.
He's the best.
I understand why you're mad at me for putting this out into the ether, but I'm trying to. I have found that this is my way of dealing with stuff. Is you put it out there, so you face it. You hear it. You hear me say those words that Steve Nash beats the Suns in Game 7 of the NBA Finals in Phoenix, and celebrates a title in Phoenix with the other team. And you picture that in your mind, and now you don't have to be scared of the boogeyman because you see him coming. You know what he looks like.
Yes.
And then that way, if it happens,
dude.
That's the worst case scenario. That's 100% the worst case scenario.
Do you think there's any chance, and I say this, obviously we're talking in all, speculation. Do you think there's any chance if we get to a finals and it's Suns Nets, God forbid, that Steve Nash has a little bit of Roy Williams in him where he is
he wears the Suns logo on
he doesn't want to do this to the Suns, you know what I mean? He wants them to win a championship because at the end of the day,
but I would agree with you.
It would be tough. It would be really tough.
If Nash had got his ring with the Lakers that he wanted.
Yes.
But I think the reason Nash is coaching is because he wants to get a ring. I feel like Nash wins the ring. I feel like if the Nets win it this year, Nash might just retire and go back to
Manhattan Beach.
Soccer commentary. Go back to living on Manhattan Beach and popping up every
working for Bleacher Report.
Do the World Cup for Bleacher Report. Whatever the hell it is you would do.
Great.
I think he wants a ring too badly. That's the problem. But I like where your head's at. I like that. He'll spin it that way. If I'm Nash's PR people, I'm spinning it that way. If the Nets lose to the Suns,
he's got to be jealous of Monty Williams too, because that could be Steve Nash. Like he could be the coach of the Phoenix Suns. He could be the former point guard turned coach that's doing great and got these young guys to buy in. So maybe some animosity keeps him from feeling the sympathy towards the Suns, but I do think if you're the Suns, like you cheer for Steve Nash when he comes out. You know what I'm saying? Like you try to get him to be on your side where he's like, I'm not even going to argue these calls because this team deserves to win. You know what I mean?
Well, we have a long way to go to get there because the Brooklyn Nets are not quite as unbeatable as I felt like they were. I saw before the series had started, or were they? Wait, no, they were 2 games in. This was 2 games. This was after game 2.
Yeah, after the blowout.
Yeah. The Nets were plus 115 on the website I looked up. I don't gamble, so I don't know like what's the website of record that we're supposed to use, but I looked it up, found one. A site was saying that the Nets were plus 115, which is, for those who don't gamble like I do and have no idea what I'm talking about, Tate, correct me if I'm wrong. That's basically almost a coin flip. If it was plus 100, that's a coin flip. Am I wrong?
Yeah,
no,
you're right.
That's correct. So plus 100 is a coin flip. They're plus 115. To win the NBA title with 8 teams remaining and only 2 games into their series against the Bucks. Vegas said it's a 50-50 shot that the Nets win this thing. They are now, I checked this morning on that exact same website, they are now plus 250. Their odds have, I never know how to say this. Are their odds worse or better?
Their odds are better, but also worse. They're better for the better, but worse
better
for
them.
The
better, but
worse
for the team. Oh my god! Yikes!
No wonder gambling content is not catching on. People are too confused.
But no, they're the odds of the Nets winning this have tanked basically, and suddenly they are not as infallible in large part because, as you said at the start, Kyrie Irving rolled his ankle. Yeah, first of all, was it a dirty play? Was Giannis stepping under Kyrie a dirty play in your mind?
Absolutely not. And if it was, or even could be misconstrued, then I think Steve Nash would have said something, as coaches do. Coaches say something if they think that's the case. And he would have been like, I would have loved if, on that rebound there, we weren't trying to, there would have been some sort of call out from Steve Nash. He didn't call that out. You know what he called out instead? I think the real issue in the game, especially if you're a Kevin Durant fan, is PJ Tucker. I mean, PJ Tucker, to me, is the key to the series because he knows Kevin Durant, and obviously we've seen them already get in fights and
he hosted him on his recruiting visit, right? Or if they didn't, he was on campus during the recruiting visit, which tells me kind of all I need to know about this dynamic. That PJ Tucker was at Texas. I don't know if he was his host, but I thought about that as I was watching them get into the fight with the security, where Durant's security guard came out and everything. I was like, that PJ Tucker has like an older brother type mentality.
Oh yeah,
whole deal. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, for sure. Which is like, you're not going to do that to me. You're not going to disrespect me, Kevin. You know what I mean? And like, I'll put you in your place if I have to. And that's pretty much like that battle.
This is about basketball, Kevin. This is about life. And
This is about being a man, Kevin. You know what I mean? And I think like what PJ's doing to him is actually smart because Kevin's such a Kevin loves the game, right? He loves like the history of the game. He loves like acting, like he's tethered to it.
The game. He's one of those people.
Yes, yeah. It's about the game. You know what I mean? It's always
the game. We're like, you never said you did, Rick. We said you hired hookers for 17-year-olds. And he's like, yeah, but I didn't cheat the game.
And PJ Tucker is putting the onus on Kevin because he's saying, you say you love 90s basketball. You say you love the physicality. You say you love the Jordan rules. Like, I'm going to show you the Jordan rules. Like, I'm going to show you what that looks like. And look, if you were really clocking this game, PJ Tucker probably had 25 fouls.
Yes.
Straight up. Like, I mean, if some objective ref came in and they were like, let's watch the tape and see how many fouls he probably had 25 fouls in this game. And look, that comes with the territory because if you watch Michael Jordan play sometimes in 1989, 1990, I would say that Bill Laimbeer had about 40 fouls in the game. You know what I mean? So it's all subjective to the point. It's all how the game is refereed. I think that, I saw a lot of people say, well, of course the league wants us to go 7, yada, yada, yada. I think that PJ Tucker is just opening the game so physical that these officials have to either decide if they're going to foul him out in 3 possessions or they're going to let him play that way.
No, that's a real life strategy that
that's
Big Ten basketball teams have used forever. Butler used it with Brad Stevens to go to back-to-back title games.
Yep.
The old Big East used it forever. It's just like
Of course.
they can't call literally every foul. So let's just
Yes.
foul the shit out of you every single time on the
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah. And let's
I
frustrate them.
I don't think the refs have the balls to call 400 fouls. They're not going to
Exactly.
do it. So at some point they might call it early, but we'll just keep fouling, and they're not going to keep calling it, and
Yeah.
we'll win in the end.
And what happens in Brooklyn in Game 5 will be fascinating, because I think in Game 5 PJ will get 2 quick whistles. Like they'll get 2 quick fouls on PJ. He'll be out of the game, and then Kevin will be free. Kevin will probably drop 40-45 points in this game. We'll see if that's enough for the Brooklyn Nets to win. But that Game 5 will be interesting, because when they go back to Milwaukee, he's going to be able to have 20 fouls again.
Yeah.
And Kevin is the kid at the YMCA right now that is like, some tryhard is over there that is like trying to get in your grill and frustrate you, and he's saying, I'm not mad. He's like, I'm actually laughing at this, but he's actually getting frustrated, and he's actually getting mad. And PJ, like you said, the big brother mentality, he knows he has him. He knows he's got him right where he wants him. Like if Kevin Durant's worried about me, if you're PJ Tucker, that's what you're thinking. If he's worried about me and I'm hitting shots that are frustrating him and I'm making more threes than he is, we won the game.
Yes.
And that's what happened in Game 4. I mean, it was as simple as that. Kevin Durant, once Kyrie goes down, I don't know how he doesn't have 40 points. He ends up with 28.
Durant was horrible. Both in terms of his production, but also the body
mentally,
language, his mental, like everything about it was not a great look for Kevin Durant. I think that's what he has to take the next couple days. Or when is Game 5?
I think it's tomorrow. Yeah.
Is it Tuesday? Whatever it is. That's the big challenge for Kevin Durant to me, is to, as you said, like have like a different mindset. Not let PJ Tucker. I agree with you. I think the refs are gonna
foul him. They're gonna get him in trouble
in the couple off days and say we gotta do something here. But yeah, Durant was very LeBron like, and not in a good way. He was very just kind of stand there on offense. When the ball comes to me, I don't pass, because I'm like, all right, I guess I'm putting this one up. And then if something doesn't go your way, you just kind of stand there and look at the ref as the fast break goes the other way. It was not a great look for him, but that's okay, because it's a long series. And
no, and he caught himself from going full LeBron too. So at the end of the game, he was walking to the tunnel before the final horn goes. And, that's like a big thing on the internet. People were upset that LeBron did that. So he, I don't know if people can even look this up, but he stops before, like the tunnel's like right here. And he stops right before he gets to the tunnel. And then the clock, it was like 7 seconds. He like lets it run down for this 5, 6. And then the horn sounds, and then he keeps walking. Because he was like already, he caught himself in the moment.
Yeah, he's like, I can't do this. Yeah,
exactly. And that's what let me know that like PJ Tucker got in his head, and he's overthinking the whole thing now. And after Game 2, when Blake Griffin's like laughing at Giannis, I thought this is a wrap, because mentally I was like, the Bucks are just they're toast at this point.
The Nets are the new Clippers. I'm not going to celebrate Kyrie's injury. I'm not going to celebrate James Harden's injury. That's
never.
I am not that.
I felt horrible for Kyrie. I mean, I don't understand how you could have a visceral hate towards Kyrie, to be honest with you. He's kind of like over here, and he is out of the way a lot of the time. So I don't understand.
I don't love that this is how it's happening, but I am not going to pretend like I'm shedding a tear over the quote unquote demise of the Brooklyn Nets, if that is in fact what we're witnessing. There's still a lot of basketball left to be played, Tate. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. But they are the Clippers of this season, in that not only am I going to celebrate the demise of the Nets, I think it's a 1-year deal. Like if the Nets win it, the Clippers I don't love, but I kind of just don't care about the Clippers this year anymore. Like last year, it was the funniest thing in the world when Paul George would suck in playoff games, when the Clippers would choke away the 3-1 lead. Like it was hysterical. I couldn't get enough of it. Screw these dudes. Like this is so bad for the league that they formed their team this way. I hate them. Get them out of here. And I think the Nets have supplanted the Clippers in that regard, where it's like we just need them. It's kind of like the Heat even. And year one with the Heatles. Is that what we call them? Is that a thing?
I think that's what they call themselves.
Did that stick? I don't know if it did.
It did not stick.
I just tried it. I didn't like it coming up.
I saw Udonis Haslam said the other day that they were the big three, and the rest of the team was the little 12. I like that, the little 12.
You know when Greg signed with the Heat at the final year, 2014, they lose the Spurs in the finals. They gave him a Heatle shirt. Like he got bequeathed like this, like welcome to the fraternity, and he had a shirt that said the Heatles on it. And I was like, what the hell, dude? Are you serious at that?
He needs to sell that shirt.
Yeah, I know. I think that's why I said that. But just like the Heat, like the Heat ended up winning 2 titles, but we all got what we needed, which was the
Yes,
Mavs beating the Heat, and that
a
was all we needed.
humbling.
And then at that point,
Yes.
like if they win 5, it sucks, whatever. But like we got our moment as
Hmm.
haters,
Yeah.
as a super team haters. That's how I feel about the Nets. Is like I really feel like next year I'll be more apathetic towards the whole deal. And if they win, it's like it is what it is. They're talented. You can't deny it. They're kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
Whatever.
At least they
But right
play a good
now,
brand
I
of
need them to
basketball.
lose. Right
Yeah.
now, I need this so badly. And I think that's where we're headed, dude.
It's
If Kyrie's that ankle does not look good.
no.
I'll tell you folks, as a former athlete myself, not a good injury.
Yeah,
I don't know if
not fun. At least the results of the X-ray were negative, but like I mean, it doesn't matter when you're in that situation. It's just going to be time, and it's going to be a lot of rest, and you don't have a lot of rest, a lot of time when you play Game 5 on Tuesday.
By the way, same with the hamstring. I don't feel like James Harden's coming back anytime soon, as much as they kind of want to hope and pray that maybe he will.
But you can't rush him back either. I mean, that's the other part of it. Well, I have the early finals MVP. You were doing the betting stuff, so I pulled the early finals MVP odds right now. Yeah, please. Who is the favorite in your mind right now? That's the big question.
The favorite. So I'm trying to think about all the factors that go into this, because this is not a list of the best players.
Like, well,
so
I
for
mean,
example,
yeah.
but I'm saying like Trae Young is not going to be anywhere on this list because they assume that the Hawks aren't going to make it.
Exactly.
Even though Trae Young might be one of the 10 best players left in the playoffs, he's not one of the.
He's not on the list. No.
Best odds to win. Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to think through all the different. It's got to be Durant number one.
Yes.
Durant's number one.
Durant is plus 165, and to explain for the novice at home, if you bet $100, you win $165.
Yeah. Okay, so Durant's number one. That much is obvious. My question now is number 2, a net player. Is it Giannis?
No, this is shocking.
Okay. Is it Devin Booker? Who is
that's who I thought it would be.
Embiid?
It's Donovan Mitchell.
Whoa.
At plus 350. So that means that Vegas is leaning toward. I mean, it's not shot. I mean, they have the best record.
Yeah. They play defense and make threes. What else do you want out of a basketball team in 2021?
And they haven't. A lot of people, I think, when they looked at the Jazz, they said the shooting will go away in the playoffs, and it hasn't. Yeah. I mean, they've shot the ball the same that they did in the regular season. So,
wow, Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell, and then number 3 is Kawhi Leonard, plus 900.
Wow.
So,
really?
Yeah, so it's Durant, Donovan Mitchell, Kawhi Leonard.
Kawhi Leonard has to beat the Jazz, the Suns, and then probably the Nets or Bucks to win Finals MVP, and he's still number 3.
He's number 3, and then number 4 is tied. There's 2 tied for number 4. It's Devin Booker plus 1,000 and Joel Embiid plus 1,000.
Wow.
So those 2. I mean, that to me seems like the best bet. Maybe you just take both those guys. You bet both of them plus 1,000, and you hope you're the Suns or the Sixers.
I would throw if I gambled, I would just throw some money on Booker and just
write it out.
It out and say,
exactly.
Why not?
Well, Chris Paul is the other one, plus 1,800. That could be.
I don't think Chris Paul, because I think the finals, as we said, like I still think the Bucks or the Nets are coming out of the East, and I don't love Chris Paul in either one of those series. Like he could get whatever he wanted against the Nets, but he's also going to get torched on the other end by Kyrie and Harden
and this is I think is the best bet probably out there right now. And if you're sitting at home and you're like, I want to put $100 on something, Giannis Antetokounmpo plus 1,800.
Whoa!
I mean, that's insane. Whoa. When you think about the fact that the way that series has swung, you think about the fact that the Suns have nobody to match up on Giannis. They don't have a Blake Griffin. I mean, that to me seems like the one. So those are your Finals MVP odds right now. Right. Again, Durant plus 165, the favorite. Donovan Mitchell plus 350, and then Giannis plus 1,800. So for the fans at home, take a look. Take a look.
I might get into gambling.
You're like, should I gamble? I don't see a world in which Giannis, like if Giannis wins, Giannis is Finals MVP. You know what I'm saying? Like if the Bucks win, then Giannis
of course.
Like,
it doesn't matter. He's gonna get the superstar treatment. There's not gonna be
That's why I feel like with those odds, it should start with like Kawhi, like the people that if like that team makes it, they're gonna win it. It's like Joel Embiid, Kawhi, Giannis, Durant. It's like that guy's gonna win it. So fascinating.
Wow, interesting. The last time I gambled on sports was 2 years ago at Summer League when
was it the Chinese team? Yeah.
I feel like that's got to. I feel like I can never gamble again because that's just like the too preposterous.
The Hornets played Team China for the people
The
that
Summer
don't
League
remember this.
Hornets. The
Yes,
Summer
yeah,
League
the
Charlotte
Summer League
Hornets,
Hornets.
led by JP Makura and Devontae Graham, I believe, at the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I believe those are the two guys that were spearheading the Summer League team. There were others, but I can't remember who else was. Those are the two guys I remember being excited about. We're playing the Chinese
I think it was
national
like
team.
PJ Washington was there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah.
And the Hornets were favored by like 35 or something. It was preposterous. Aristotle and I were bored, and we go to where were we? Caesar's Palace. We're at the
I think
Caesar. We
so.
stayed at Caesar's Palace. We'd been to like 3,000 of the summer league games, so we had no interest in like you only kind of go for a couple hours a day over to the gym, and then we were done with that. We were done with gambling, playing blackjack or whatever. We were kind of done with our night, and we were like, why don't we just go to the sports book and watch China versus the Charlotte Hornets? He's like, you want to bet on this? And instead of betting each other, we got the book involved. And he goes up.
We got the book involved.
He goes, I'm going to bet on China because I think it'd be more fun. And then I thought, okay, so my choices are either bet on China and then he and I can celebrate together, or cry together, whatever it was, which looking back, that's what I should have done. Not because he ended up being right, but because that probably would have been more fun.
Yeah.
But in
at least you're on the same, you're on the same side of history.
I didn't know the etiquette. So in my head, I was like, I got to bet the opposite. So he bet China and I was like, all right, I guess give me the Hornets. And we put like $100 down, and China not only covered like 35.5, Tate, they won the game straight up. I don't think it was 35.5. I think it was more like around 30, but it was still just absolutely preposterous spread. And they win the game straight up.
And then
I took a picture and still hold up a number one and his ticket.
And then we talked about it. I mean, it was Michael Jordan's way to curry favor with the Chinese government. You know what I mean? Without having to do anything like wrong. He's just like, let the summer league team lose. Take a fall.
If Jordan gets asked about the politics of China and Hong Kong and Taiwan,
he just points to that game. He's like, you remember the game.
Tweets a screenshot of the game. It's like, this is my official statement. All right, I'm gonna do fraud power rankings and then get out of here because this is important. This is for posterity. I think a lot of people at home are keeping track of this stuff and they need to know where I stand. So
we need Wild Bags to create like a graphic. You know what I mean? I feel like Wild Bags is the guy for this of the updated fraud power rankings. I hope he's listening right now. Also, quickly about Wild Bags, Duke tweeted the other day, if you have any content ideas for Coach K for the farewell tour, to tweet it at them. So he was sending some ideas. So we'll get on all of that with Wild Bags. But go ahead, updated fraud power rankings.
My first content idea was trying to figure out what song to put over the K clapping.
Yes.
Every time we touch.
Yeah.
What's the funniest song you can put over that clip? And
Sarah McLachlan, In the Eyes of an Angel.
Or it's like some death metal.
Yeah.
Cut my life in two pieces.
Yeah. Honestly, what it is already fun. Like, it's already too funny. You know what I mean? It's kind of like when people are trying to make fun of Trump. It's like you can't make fun of what's already hilarious. You know what I mean? Like Coach K is the same thing.
You're absolutely right. All right, let's start with number 5 on the fraud power rankings. As first reported on this program, when was this? 2 weeks ago, something like that. The Dallas Mavericks organization
is in
turmoil.
Entire
organization are fraudulent, in turmoil, what have you. As you mentioned at the top, you got a little excited, jumped the gun on me. There was an article in The Athletic that came out today that I will summarize as this as a non-athletic subscriber. So I didn't read it, obviously, but I was trying to. It seemed kind of boring, if we're being honest. I was compiling the bits and pieces. Long story short, The Athletic puts out this article that there is a rift in the front office. That Mark Cuban is the owner, as we know. Donnie Nelson is the GM, not Don Nelson, his son.
Yep,
is the GM, and then Haralabob. How do you say his last name? Vulgaris. Haralabob Vulgaris is like the shadow GM of the Mavs. And apparently he doesn't love Luka, or Luka doesn't love him. And there's this rift because like Haralabob is trusted by everybody. He's a genius.
I love H-Bob. So this story was awesome. This is like the best story I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't the details to me, honestly, frankly, don't really care that much. I just love that like Haralabob has inserted himself into the Dallas Mavericks organization. There's mass turmoil. Mark Cuban tweeted today that the story is bullshit, which I gotta be honest, nothing made me think that the story was 100% true.
Until he said that.
Did Mark Cuban say this is bullshit? And I was like, all right, well, there's definitely a lot of merit to this. Meanwhile, as we know, Kristaps Porzingis is hated by everybody, but then also hates Luka and was trying,
Mhm.
or hate's a strong word, but he was like, I don't love how I fit into this team. And
Yeah. He said he wanted to be a co-star, not an accessory to the
the
team.
team's
Yeah.
like, we just don't love you in general. And we're going to try to trade you if we can figure it out. But also, we
Yeah.
probably
And
can't.
H Bob is saying we need more post-ups.
Yes. Yes. All of this is going on. And so that's why the Dallas Mavericks, an organization that once upon a time, I feel like not that long ago, as I said a couple weeks ago, when we pointed out that they've not won a first round series since they've not won a series of any kind. If you don't win the first round, you don't win any series in the playoffs since they won the title in 2011. But in my mind, they always seem like one of the better organizations, just the way people talk about them or the way
Yeah.
they are revered. Uh, Boy, trouble in paradise, Tate. There seems to
Yeah.
be trouble in paradise, and it all points to one man who showed up in March when he was traded from the New Orleans Pelicans. Do you think that could be? Do you think you could connect the dots? I'll let you take it from here. I'm just pointing out. We are a Just Facts podcast, and I'm pointing out the facts that JJ Redick was traded to the Mavs in March, and now the franchise is in disarray. Your thoughts, Tate?
I would just say that, to describe the character that you just said, I mean, he is the anti Danny Green. He is not a champion. You know what I mean? Wherever JJ goes, they lose. You know what I mean? We've seen that in every situation. I know he goes to the playoffs. A lot of people were like, he always goes to the playoffs, but does he win? No. Does Danny Green win? Yes. I mean, guess who's still in the playoffs, even though he's hurt right now? Danny effing Green. So if I'm the Mavericks, I'm thinking, one, we should have gone after Danny Green. That was a mistake. I agree with H Bob in the sense
Trade
that
Luka?
No. I agree with H Bob in the sense that, like, he was upset according to the story. I mean, I haven't talked to Rally Bob about this, obviously, because I only talked to Rally Bob on the Bill Simmons podcast or over Instagram.
Can you
DM
imagine
randomly.
if you had talked to Rally Bob? If this story came out and you called him and he answered, he's like, I will gladly talk to you about this story.
It's like, can you report a story for me, actually? H Bob loves and understands basketball, and I think he also is what I would call a tinkerer. Someone that tinkers. Not like Tinker Hatfield, but like Tinker Hatfield. He's a guy that he has a lot of good ideas. I think he has a lot of ideas that work probably more in a vacuum, and I think he likes to, see what push buttons and see what works. And I think he was upset apparently about the Josh Richardson trade for Seth Curry because in his mind, he's an analytical guy. He's like, we have the best 3-point shooter possible that can space the floor for Luka. Why would we get rid of him?
I would agree with him.
I would agree with him as well. And you trade for Josh Richardson for defense, which is, and obviously he didn't, that none of that worked out. So I understand the frustration coming from the camp. If you're looking at it from that vantage point, and then all the Luka stuff, I think that Haralabob, and this is all my just, having been a producer while he's on with Bill, and Bill says something like, Jason Tatum's going to be the next Kevin Durant. H Bob, when young guys get a lot of glowing reviews, H Bob is very quick to point out their flaws, for better, for worse. So I could see a lot of people in the Dallas front office being like, I love Luka. Luka's, untouchable. Luka is perfect. Luka. And Haralabob, just being by his nature, is like, I'm not going to give him all this love. I'm going to find things to poke holes in because that's how
he
doesn't
use his heart. He uses his head.
Exactly.
Says,
And
I'm not getting carried away in Lukamania.
I could see him having not bedside manner about it. You know what I mean? Like, he could say some things that if you're Luka or you're Luka's team or whatever, you could be like, what the, who's this guy?
Yeah.
And he has no problem being like, I'm this guy and you suck.
I'm him. Bob says, I'm him.
And so like the whole story itself honestly just makes me laugh because, H Bob is a very, very smart basketball mind. I think I could totally see him trying to make things happen. I could see Donnie Nelson, trying to keep things status quo. And that's what it felt like. It felt like whoever leaked this story, I don't know if it was Luka's camp or, the Mavs front office, whoever leaked this story wants Haralabob to be the enemy or to be like the problem child, the disruptor, whatever you want to call him. And I don't think that's necessarily, what he is. I think he, just like I said, I think he's a tinkerer. I think he likes to have his opinion on things. And I don't think he's afraid of his opinion. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he's going to sit back and not say something if he believes it. And that's where the story seems like it's coming from. And if it leads to Luka wanting to leave, that is hilarious. Like that is hilarious. Like, that is the funniest thing.
That would be hilarious. That is the Joker walking out of the hospital as it's exploded. Like I just
Yes,
picture her,
just
her
chaos.
just like I
Yeah,
chose chaos. That's what I wanted.
and that's your and that's your claim to fame forever in basketball. You know what I mean? Like you ran Luke out of Dallas. I mean, crazy. I don't. I think the
What's
story is a little
especially
far
crazy
fetched.
is that this man does not need this job. So like he doesn't have to worry about like if he runs Luke out of Dallas and then he's untouchable and everyone else in the NBA is like, this guy's a moron. We don't want anything to do it. Or he can just go, okay, cool. I'll go back to gambling and make a ton of money. And
For the people that don't know, Haralabob is like one of the most infamous, famous, whatever word you want to use, the NBA gamblers. He is the man who was able to predict, and he has his own methods of predicting games.
He predicted the Lakers would be good when Kobe and Shaq were on the team or something.
I can't remember. I can't remember. I mean, look, I will say, like, he was one of those people that like Bill would have on, you know, and you're just like, you hear the NBA opinions, but what Haralabob was saying, I was always so fascinated because it was very specific to him. You know what I mean? You could understand where he was coming from and why he was saying
I said,
it.
He never talked with his heart. He was never like, I believe, I don't care that people think, you know, MJ's the greatest. For me, it was Hakeem, man. I just loved watching Hakeem as a kid. Like, he'd grow up, he spoke his game, but he didn't talk that way. Like, he didn't argue.
No.
And with like a heart.
He literally will say to your face, he'll be like, Giannis will never be a 75% free throw shooter. It'll never happen. You know what I mean? Like, he says things. You're like, oh, okay, I guess that's true. And like, even like a Tatum example, he's like, he'll never be a consistent 40% 3-point shooter. You know what I mean? Like, shit like that.
Say that to the face of Bill Simmons, who has his heart so invested in it.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I don't use my heart for any of this. So,
and that's why it leads to a beautiful conversation, because I think that, like, basketball, the argument, like the cultural argument, is like, you know, numbers, analytics, like you said, head, and then there's like the purists that are like, it's heart, feel, touch, whatever, all these things. So like the best conversation, I think, is when those two things are together. And so when Bill and Haralabob are together, that is the conversation, like you said. I mean, and so therefore it leads to this great, like, you can take it for what it is. Like, you know what I mean? You have both sides of the equation. Or Bill's like, I don't know. Just when I have Donovan Mitchell, I like my chances there. And Haralabob's like, he's actually terrible in late game situations. You know what I mean? You're like, I don't know what the right answer is, but I'm glad I heard both sides of it. You know what I mean? And now I feel better about the whole thing. Oh, man.
Anyway, long story short, Dallas Mavericks frauds. Fraud number 5. Number 4 on my list, and this one's kind of broad. This is more broad than fraud, as you said.
Yeah.
Every college without an alum still in the playoffs, whether it be a player, a coach, a GM, a GM's son,
assistant GM,
somehow, assistant, you name it. If you are a college, if you're a college basketball program that does not have an alum still involved in these playoffs, somehow you're a fraud. And I'm going to tell you why, because every single college with an alum in these playoffs
has tweeted about it,
knocking it out of the park with these tweets. Tate. The one that caught my eye today, the Maryland Terrapins.
Wow.
Let it be known, we've got more players in the NBA conference semifinals than any other school in the Big Ten.
And who are the players? Is Kevin Huerter? Kevin Huerter is the only one that plays.
Jalen Smith on the Suns and Bruno Fernando for the Hawks, who those two have combined played 15 minutes the entire playoffs.
I was going to say, come on.
But they're letting it be known. Meanwhile, Miami, you mentioned James Jones earlier. Miami, the University of Miami tweeted out, this man has squad in the West. This man has his squad Western Conference Finals bound, and reminded everybody that James Jones has something to do.
Yes.
With the Phoenix Suns.
Yes. The GM. Love to hear it. Love to see it.
Which, you know, like, not that he's, I don't.
I know what you're saying.
They're he's not the face of the Phoenix Suns. I wouldn't. No. You know what I mean?
He's not making threes for the Phoenix Suns right now, but, you know, I love it. I love that they're going out, and for Miami too. You know what I mean? To just be like, we're making sure that you know that we're involved in these playoffs. Like, we're here.
In the world of Miami basketball, James Jones is the reason that the Suns have advanced this far. In everyone else's world, they're like, wait, James Jones is the GM? Wow, that's crazy. Purdue shouted out Etuan Moore, who has played in 2 playoff games. Both of them were blowouts. He is on the Suns as well. He has advanced to the conference finals. Purdue made sure to put out a congratulatory statement. And Abdul Nader, who has been injured the entire playoffs, but played at Iowa State. I'm sorry. Iowa State has shouted him out during this this playoff run that he is actually not taking part in as a member of the Phoenix Suns. So a lot of, as the Suns advance to the Western Conference Finals, all of these schools are reminding everybody that we have a shred of a tie to the success. Because Chris Paul was hitting a lot of 15-foot jump shots from the right elbow using a high ball screen. That is actually great for Iowa State basketball, and here's why.
But the real test is, will Wake Forest come out and say Chris Paul? Because, like I told you on the show, there is they're competing for Chris Paul's loyalty, because Chris Paul is getting his degree right now from Winston-Salem State and HBCU. That's where he's actually going to school. And obviously he's not going to Wake Forest. I'm not sure. I mean, I know that, he's always been very, outward with his Wake Forest support, but right now I haven't seen Wake Forest go out and say like Chris Paul, the point guard. I haven't seen any of those.
I haven't seen the point guard graphics.
I have not.
So,
but if you're NC Central or you're Winston-Salem State, because LaVelle Moton's very close to Chris Paul, I think you beat Wake Forest to the punch and you claim him. You know what I mean? Because if Winston-Salem State tweets like our guy, Chris Paul, he is already attending there right now. So if they say our current student, Chris Paul, is the point guard and he's killing it, then Wake Forest is sitting there with their hands in their lap and they're like, wow. The one time we could have taken Chris Paul, we don't have Tim Duncan anymore, and we lost him to Winston-Salem State.
Wow. Anyway, if you're one of the
Wake Forest, put him on the fraud power ranking.
If you're one of the colleges that doesn't have an alum, I mean, imagine how fraudulent you'd have to be, because it feels like every school in this country has some sort of a tie to the playoffs right now. I just picture like a meeting happening with a basketball program that they're discussing. They're like, surely there's somebody. Surely
we got to have somebody.
And they're like, Coach, I'm sorry, we're out. I've ran the numbers. We have no alum. Like, damn it! It's the here's the meme. It's the Hitler meme. You know the one where Hitler like is you know what I'm talking about? That one movie where he's like speaking German and then they dub over the what he's saying in English.
Yeah. And he's like 9-9. Yeah. Doing the whole thing. Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah,
it's like, Coach, we have no alums left in these playoffs. And then,
I was thinking of the Anakin Skywalker, Natalie Portman one, where she's like, "Of course we have alums in the playoffs," and then he's like, he's like, oh, "Right, we have alums in the playoffs."
Moving on, number 3 on the fraud power rankings, NBA officials. This is getting out of hand. With first of all, Kevin Durant, as we said, gets fouled 4,000 times by PJ Tucker.
I did sympathize with Kevin Durant. He was getting murdered out there.
There was no foul called on Giannis when he steps under Kyrie and rolls his ankle. It should have been a foul. It maybe should have been worse. Should Giannis be able to play basketball ever again? I don't know. I'll leave that debate up to someone else. But I do know this. A foul should have been called. Meanwhile, Jokic, the MVP of the league, Nikola Jokic, is ejected in an elimination game, Tate, for a play that was barely even a foul, much less a flagrant 2. And people out there, and by people I mean Chris Vernon, who is very excited to crack his knuckles and point out to everybody that he deserved to be ejected, would like to point out that Jokic wound up. That the reason he was ejected is because he wound up his arm and slapped at the ball, and because he kind of nicked Cameron Payne in the nose. Which Cameron Payne, like, come on. The guy fell down and rolled around.
Come on.
How many times did Cameron Payne check for blood? He kept like holding his nose and he's like, surely there's blood. It's like, Cameron, it's not.
Now I know why he spells his name the way he does. You know what I mean? Because if he knew real pain, he'd spell it Pain. You know what I'm saying? He's a different kind of pain.
Great point. But to me, Jokic winding up means nothing. I mean, I don't understand why that factors into it. He made
in slow motion. It looked horrible, but in the moment, I thought he was trying to hit the ball. I think everybody who was watching it, he definitely was going for the ball. Who cares how frustrated
he is or that he wound? I mean, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist wound up his jump shot every
single time.
I mean, he never got called for a flagrant for winding up. So, like, what the hell are we talking about here? Is winding up? If we're getting worked up about winding up, I mean,
and then to throw the MVP, like they treated him like he was Nurkic instead of Jokic. Like to throw the MVP out of the game in a game where he's basically trying to
single-handedly save the series. What
like, doing? I mean, it's crazy. And look, I will say this: the Jokic moment with Devin Booker, Jokic won. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely did.
Jokic, like when that moment happened, I think Devin Booker walked away and was like, "Oh, he's the MVP." You know what I mean? Like Jokic was looking at him, he was like, "What? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?" And I was like, "Oh man," I was like, "This is good." I was like, "There's no joking around anymore." You know what I mean? Like that's Nikola Jokic, and he was like really trying to make sure that he knew, like, I run the West. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And once I get my boys back, once they're healthy, don't worry, I'm gonna be right here. You're not gonna be chirping that much. You know
Devin
what I mean?
Booker is
I
like,
like that. I like that moment.
Devin Booker's like, I'm from the streets, and Jokic is like, where I'm from, we don't have streets. So Booker's like, well, I loved Reggie Miller's breakdown when he's watching. He's like going through. It was Miller, Reggie, right? Like,
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
My
I think so.
Scrambled trying to
Yeah,
remember, but I was pretty sure it was Reggie that he's going over the whole sequence of events, and that like, you know, so Jokic swipes Cameron Payne, then of course Devin Booker steps in, which you have to do if you're Devin Booker, and he kept saying like you have to do that, and then see for me, and he's breaking it down. He's like, for me, Jay Crowder, he didn't step in like he was supposed to. He's supposed to now step in for, and I'm watching this like, is this all choreographed?
Like, it's like a dance.
Like, we have roles that are like, if this happens, then all right, I'm gonna be the guy. Monty Williams has it drawn up on the board. He's like, all right, if a fight breaks out, Devin, this is your game. You get in the face. Chris, you're going to be the one to break it up. Jay, I want you to like kind of instigate, but at the same time, like make it look like you're trying to break it up, but really you're very aggressively pushing them away. Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was fun trying to.
It was the best part of too, at least after the game. It was like, I saw, you know, Jokic and Booker, like, you know, like saying nice things, but you know what I mean? It was like, it was a moment on the court that was heated, and it was over after the fact, which to me, that's what it's supposed to be. That's like what basketball is. And of course, Jokic is frustrated. And of course, in Jokic's mind, he's like, your boy is faking on the floor right now. And now you're trying to get in my face. And I'm already mad. So now I'm really mad. Now I'm upset.
Yeah. Another bullet point for refs being frauds. So right now is lane violations aren't being called. And I want to put on my old man hat and say, I'm noticing a lot of guys stepping in early on free throws. I'm noticing a lot of chicanery. I noticed that the Nuggets took a technical free throw. I forget what the context was. Did someone get to? Man, I forget. My brain's is scrambled. But the Nuggets take a tech free throw, and Devin Booker was like at the free throw line, extended outside the 3-point line, waving his hand. At I think Campazzo was taking.
I think it was. Yeah.
And he waves his hand, and he misses, and then the Nuggets bench is going crazy, trying to point out that Booker is like. Let's clean up the free throw etiquette, officials, please, for the love of God. They're called free throws. They should be free. You shouldn't get all this nonsensical extracurricular. Let them shoot. Yeah. Hashtag let them shoot.
And then you got Scott Foster throwing the ball to Giannis. Did you see that when he was mic'd up? He was like, shoot it on time.
Yes.
We need more of that.
Come on. Number 2 on my fraud power rankings, analytics in general. As you said, Haralabah, an analytics guy in hot water. Meanwhile, Chris Paul, mid-range.
Say it louder.
Big time W. Jokic, who was the MVP, who I do think deserved MVP. I do think is one of the, I am very much pro Jokic, and I think Jokic is better than even people think he is. Like I love.
They don't even understand what they're watching.
You don't even get it.
You don't even get it.
Understand.
We're saying this with our heart, by the way.
Yeah. I'm very pro Jokic, but at the same time, like one of the big cases for why Jokic is so good is his advanced stats. He gets swept in the second round as your NBA MVP. So huge hit on analytics in the last few days. Fraudulent. Stamp it. Number 2. And number 1 on the fraud power rankings this week. Aaron Gordon. I'm going to make it simple. It was Aaron Gordon.
Ooh.
Games 2 through 4, he scores 6 points per game.
I was going to say all Jokic needed was somebody else.
Somebody.
That's all. And he was begging for it.
Aaron Gordon scores 6 points a game, 32% from the field, 0 for 5 from 3, less than 4 rebounds a game, 1.3 assists per game, and the final 3 games of this series. My question to you, Tate, was this the Roy Williams move with the Suns? Was Aaron Gordon a guy who went to the University of Arizona? He is not from Arizona. He is a California kid, if I understand correctly. But maybe his heart, when he was in Arizona, his heart grew a fondness for the Suns. And now that he's playing his college pro team, if that makes any sense whatsoever, he thought, you know what, I'm gonna just completely forget how to play basketball and do nothing out here.
I think I've seen a lot of the headlines about Devin Booker. They're like once framed as a good stats, bad team guy. And I think that Aaron Gordon actually looked the part of that kind of player.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like in this series, not to say that he hasn't looked great. And I think that Aaron Gordon will come back, but like, if you're talking about that type of framing of someone to say, I'm not sure they're going to show up for the big moments. Like Aaron Gordon, he needed to show up. Michael Porter Jr. as well. Like, let's just be honest about it. Michael Porter Jr., for them to have a real shot, he had to be a legit number 2 option. He was not, I think, but it's really hard to go from the number 4 option like he usually is to the number 2 option. And then Aaron Gordon, you're used to being the number 3, number 4 option. Now you're expected to be bumped up to the number 2 option. It's tough. And obviously, if that's not the expectation, that's not the way you played all season. You have your spots, you have your moments, and now you're trying to figure it out on the fly to some level. And obviously with Jokic, that makes things easier. But it did seem like everyone was trying to figure out who that guy was. I mean, Campazzo was probably the best number 2 guy that Jokic had with him, to be honest with you at times. And that kind of says and spells out the whole problem with the series. So I think number 1 is I think Aaron Gordon should be getting a lot more heat than he is, but also I think a lot of people don't or did not expect Aaron Gordon to do much, which I think is wrong because he's very talented. And I think he has the ability to do a lot. And,
if you're Aaron Gordon, you wake up and you check, the sports talk shows. And
you expect to be getting
and you're like, oh my God, they're going to kill me. And then no one says anything. And you're like, wait.
It's very Stockton. You know what I mean?
If I'm happy about this or not. Like, I can't tell.
He's like, am I relevant to you? Am I a joke to you?
All right, let's get out of here. Shout outs, closeouts. What do you got?
Shout out to Eddie Jones. Eddie Jones is the first player to wear number 6 with the Miami Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers. And famously, LeBron James will follow in his footsteps and do the same thing and wear number 6 now for the Los Angeles Lakers. I have always said, and I've always wanted LeBron James to not wear number 23. It made the confusing point, when I ask a kid that's wearing number 23, that's my cousins, for example, when they're little kids, one of them would say Jordan, the other one would say LeBron. I never liked it because I was like, I need to know where you stand here. Like, you tell me. So I've always wanted, LeBron to have his own thing. And number 6 is obviously Dr. J. But I don't even think.
What is that? Like, is there?
Well, but kids don't even know Kobe Bryant hardly anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, they barely even watch Kobe Bryant or Tracy McGrady. So like, they definitely don't know Dr. J. So now I'm working in the Gen Z, like how they digest things. So I'm thinking to myself, if you're LeBron James, 6 is a good number for you.
But
Eddie Jones did it first though.
Kids can't wear 6 because you can't like. I thought in youth basketball and high school.
Oh, maybe like at a YMCA, you probably
like the highest numbers you can have are 5s, right? Because the rationale being refs.
Yeah, they have to do the numbers. Yeah, because this would be 15.
Yeah, which makes no sense because in the NBA they just do like forward backward. They just do like 67.
Yeah, well, it sounds like LeBron has not thought this through then because the kids cannot wear his jersey. I honestly don't know where this came from. I saw a trailer of Space Jam before, and he had number 23 on in the movie. So they have changed. Like this is a recent decision, and I don't know how that all happened, but I'm happy about it.
I think it's a
number 23 is owned by the right man now, is what I would say.
I think it's a warning sign that Space Jam 6 is coming. We're getting Space Jam 3, 4, 5, and 6, and it's all leading up to that.
I think he should have worn number 7 though, because I know KD does, but then it's like you kind of own the not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7. You know what I mean? And then if he is number 7, he's like,
what if LeBron changes number to 69? Would that win you back?
This won me back, by the way.
But if LeBron James, all jokes aside, he literally announced today, I will wear number 69, and he didn't try to make it all cheeky and funny. He just like put out the statement. He's like, yeah, I'm changing my number to 69. It is what it is. And then next year he comes out wearing James 69 on the back of his jersey. Do you now have to support LeBron James? I think you do.
I think I do. And I think at the end of the day, I do support LeBron James, just not more than Michael Jordan. That's the difference. And at the end of the day, when you look at USA basketball, and I will put up one of these pictures once LeBron retires, I'm going to have LeBron in 6, and I'm going to have Jordan in 9, and then I'm going to say race to 6'9". You know what I'm saying? That's USA basketball.
Great point.
So it's all settled. We have both of the GOATs. We have both of the GOATs. USA basketball is at the top. At the end of the day, USA basketball is top priority, So yeah, it's all good.
I want to shout out a friend of the program and fellow Big Ten walk-on in the Big Ten basketball walk-on brotherhood. Steven Izzo. He is Tom Izzo's son, and he listens to our show, Tate, and he is turning 21. And I just wanted to acknowledge him because I think I'm trying to connect the dots for how Steven Izzo turning 21 affects the Michigan State season? How does this, like, is he going to be out more, and is he going to be bringing his teammates with him? Is he? I'm trying to connect. I'm still working on it because, as you know, the Izzo family leads the nation in conspiracy is not the right word, but like there's always something to suss out with that family.
Yeah, what are
There's
they up
always something.
to?
What are they up to? There's always something. So Steven Izzo, living another year. What are you up to? You're turning 21. I'm feeling it out, trying to figure out what he's up to. This is a man, as I witnessed firsthand, Tate. The Michigan State fans love this man so much that on Cassius Winston senior night, I was there firsthand. I saw it with my own eyes. Cassius Winston senior night, the last time Cassius Winston put on a Michigan State uniform, as Cassius Winston was walking off the floor for the very last time in a Michigan State uniform in the Breslin Center, and Steven Izzo was checking in for him, the place erupted. They were the Michigan State fans were so happy to see Cassius Winston finally get replaced by Steven Izzo that it like really melted my mind. I was like, what's going on here? They're cheering so loudly for Steven Izzo to be like, did they not like Cassius Winston? One of the greatest point guards they've had in the program's history. So I don't know what's going on. Like, I witnessed it with my own eyes. Michigan State fans love this kid, and he just turned 21. So I'm trying to figure out too, like, what this means for for Tom Izzo's longevity as a coach. I don't know. We got to work on that.
I think at the end of the day, we have to choose the side. You know, it's like, what coach's son do we want to ride for? And it's not going to be Buddy Boeheim. It's going to be Steven Izzo, and that's all it is. We're here. We know that Coach Izzo is not like Coach K. He doesn't need a farewell tour. He doesn't need all the hoopla. So we respect those who respect the game, just like Kevin Durant. You know, I mean, we respect the game. Steven Izzo respects the game.
You want to talk about respecting the game? I'm probably going to get him in trouble for this, but I don't care. Steven, if your dad gets mad, tell him to come on the show and we can hash it out.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Michigan State got their ass kicked by Iowa this year at home. And he sends me a DM on Instagram with a screenshot of the box score. And he's like, one of the worst losses in Michigan State basketball history. But I got that trillion, though. It shows I was dying. I was like, this was at the peak of or the depths of Michigan State this year, when the wheels had fallen off already. And then like other parts that you didn't.
He was like, "Don't worry, Titus, I'm out here though."
Dude, they were the Michigan State at the when who was it? Rocket Watt. It was Aaron Henry said we just have to dig ourselves out of this hole. That was that was the position they were in, and Steven Izzo was like, "I got a trillion though, and that's all that matters."
That's all that really matters.
I also want to shout out Tate Frazier shot a 79 at Angeles National.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So in case you missed it, Tate Frazier was balling out on the golf course. We went.
Yeah, I had a lot of people reach out to me because and it was not very flattering. You know what I'm saying? I have a tendency to have this happen to me. A lot of people see me, they say that guy, has no hand-eye coordination. That guy can't do anything. That guy is an idiot. I hate that guy. And then I play sports, and then they say, "Wait a second, you can do something. You have actual anything to offer?" And I say, "Yeah, I can play golf a little bit." So I had so many people, Titus, reach out to me, and then I got invited to play golf a bunch. A lot of people were like, "No way!" Like guys I went to Carolina with. You know what I'm saying? Like one of my friends that I play basketball with all the time, Garrett. He texts me and goes, "I didn't know you play golf." I'm like,
"Wait, what?
What?" I'm like, "What? Like how?" You know what I'm saying?
The haters were shook, dude. The haters were very shook. The haters trying to recalibrate, like try to figure out where to go from here. Yeah.
Exactly. And wait till they figure out I played baseball. I mean, that's gonna really be tough for them.
I'll tell you where the haters can go from here. They can go to my golf game because I had probably the worst round of my life as you were throwing darts out there.
It wasn't your fault. It was the aerated greens. That's what we kept. Every time that anything that happened, it was aeration. You know what I mean? That's all it was.
What else is there? England beat Croatia.
Oh man,
home. There's that. I've taken a little.
I didn't watch, by the way. I did not watch, so I take it on my chin.
At 6 a.m. and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
6 a.m. to watch it. Like if it's the final, I'll wake up that early, but I'm not watching the 6.
Not group stage. Yeah.
I got a lot of flack because I picked England as my favorite Euro team. People said that their fans are the worst, and I was like, yeah, that's a feature. That's not a bug. Like I love. They put out those videos of them being drunk at bars, and like that country's unbelievable with the content they put out, right?
Yeah.
And as I said to you off air, there is no soccer fan base in the world that would be more fun to be in that country with those people when they win the World Cup than England. That would be the number one situation in terms of
especially now. They're so far removed from relevance. Yeah.
So that's all it takes. That's why I'm cheering for England. And I get that their fans are the worst, but they're so unapologetically the worst. They're like they're so like what few clips I saw of the Croatia England game, they would cut to the crowd and like the Croatian fans, like every Croatian fan they're showing is just like this beautiful woman who's like got some sort of Croatia logo on her face or the flag or whatever it is. And just gorgeous women galore. And they cut to England fans. And it's just like the most hideous beast you've ever seen.
with a pint in his hand, just belting songs out. Yeah.
And it's so preposterous at a certain point it becomes endearing, and that's why I cheer for him. So
no, shout out to England.
That's it. Oh, one more shout out. Mike Krzyzewski retiring at the end of next year.
Oh, right.
Shout out Coach K. We love you. Best of luck this year. We hope everything goes well, and you get the kudos you deserve for all the contributions you made to this great game.
Love you, Coach. I thought about this as you were talking. We were talking about Coach K earlier. What age did you figure out how to spell his name? You know, like you're a writer.
Yeah.
We were both writing with Coach K, so we had to figure out at some point how to spell Krzyzewski properly. And when the first time I spelled it, I was like, this is even dumber than I thought it was. You know what I mean? Like I was getting pissed.
I could see you typing it out.
Oh my God.
The squiggly red line doesn't pop up. And for the first time that happens, you're just like, God damn.
And you're looking at, you're like, it's Suzuki?
All right, that's the show. God bless you guys. We will see you later.
Yep. Hey there, thanks for watching Titus and Tate. For the full friend of the program experience, subscribe right below and come join us for all things college basketball. The action is heating up. Come join Titus and Tate.